baseball season.
Hey, y'all. Welcome in. Happy Wednesday. I don't know if y'all can believe it because I know I cannot, but it's April, y'all. Spring is in full effect. Hope you got your lavender, peppermint, lemon, copaiba, and all the things because I don't know who else struggling. But if y'all know what we're talking about, you need to reach out and get hooked up ASAP. Yo, we are firmly in quarter 2. I hope y'all had a productive, successful Q1. We would love to hear from you. Y'all know what to do in the comments. Jump in, say hello. Where are you tuning in from? Share this to all your peoples. How you doing? What's been going right? What's been going wrong? Where can we help you? How are you feeling? Are you excited? Are you still in that like new year, new things mode? Have you crashed? Like what's going on? So, y'all know the drill. Grab your partner, grab your friend, grab your Ningxia, grab your soda, your wine, whatever it is that you drink that makes you feel comfortable. Grab your snuggies, your blankies, whatever. And let's come in here and let's chat. Y'all know that we keep it really real all the time. We gets into it, and this conversation is no different. We are known for as a trio. We call each other out. Andriana generally gets the full force of it, but we call each other out, and I feel like this episode is a call out moment, not only for us, but everybody watching right now, especially if you have little eyes watching you doing what you do. So, we talk a lot about generational things, right? Talk a lot about cultural things. How do things affect us personally from, our cultures, from our families being handed down generationally? And then how do we push that out into the world, right? How does that affect our message from, me to Dayna to me, Andriana to both of us, but most importantly to those young people watching you, to your own kids, to your nieces and nephews. Talk a lot about that. But one thing that I don't think we've ever touched on, and y'all can correct us if we're wrong, but I'm pretty certain we haven't, is not just the words that we're speaking, but our actions. One thing that comes to mind to me is we always hear and say, right, from the old heads, do as I say, not as I do, right? Like, because kids like to be like, but you didn't do it. You didn't eat all that. You ain't eat no peas. You didn't. And what you do as I say, not as I do, right? That's the comeback that we all always have. But what do you do when you're not exactly living the example that you're preaching? Like business, so I talk a lot about business. So what do you think in that statement that you could be potentially doing to specifically the little ones watching you? Are you actually living what you're preaching, or are you hiding behind that sermon that you give to your little ones and even those that are following you? I would love to hear your brave answers in the comments if you got it. But we're going to get into it, y'all. Let's go. Oh, so don't nobody want to jump in.
I was gonna let Dayna take it first, but since I got a little one sitting here, I will say that for the most part, I have always told my kids, you can do whatever you want to do. The world is your oyster. Just make sure you ain't trying to hurt nobody in the process. But recently, my 8-year-old daughter, she is just like, I call her my mini me. She wants to do everything that I do. And so I'm a teacher, I'm a doula. I do all these things. I'll have my own business. Mama, I think I want to be a teacher. Mama, I think I want to talk to people about babies. Okay, let's get one thing going at a time. Y'all called me out before, like back some several episodes. Hey, y'all need to get good with one thing. I'm trying to tell her, get good with one thing, baby. Then we can move on. But she see me doing all these things. I'm glad I'm a good role model for my baby. But um, there have been times that I say do as I say and not as I do because I tend to slack off myself. So it's just being the motivation for my kids is where like failure is not an option because I have three little people watching me. I have to be this business owner, but then I have to be this mama also in the process to these little people, and they're watching everything that I do, and they want to mimic everything that I do, and they're starting to ask questions, and I love it. And I don't know if y'all, we talk about Dayna all the time. We give her props. Like her kids are all over the internet. And so one time my children were watching. Oh, they out there selling their own. Wait, they got a coloring book. They doing that. What? Why can't we do that? But we not there yet, honey. We one thing at a time, okay? But I mean, I just love that they're seeing and being visual and seeing what's going on around them. And I mean, hey, we'll work towards that eventually.
I love that. I love that. Love that. Love that. So before I go into my thing, I didn't start it off because I'm like, I got a lot to say. But before I hop in, I just want to say, since it's officially baseball season, in Detroit, like opening day is basically a holiday. I had to represent for my Tigers. This season better be better than I don't know what y'all was doing last season. So I'm here for it. Let's go. Let's go. Okay. Anywho, this subject, this is something dear to my heart. And it's dear to my heart because, as mentioned, I live in Detroit. I live in Michigan, right? And if you live here, more than likely, you are in some type of business or associated with or related to somebody that's connected to the big three of some sort, whether that's GM, Ford, or Chrysler. Okay? Like, that is what we know, okay? Because that's where we live. That's where their headquarters are here. So many people here are connected in some way to that field, right? And what happens is then their children do the same thing or work for some type of company that also produces things for the automotive industry, right? So I use this example all the time. So my father worked for GM. My grandfather worked for Ford, right? My father is an electrician. Guess what? My husband's an electrician, right? My sister works for GM. So it's like we do what we see, right? If this is normalized as to kind of what we do, that's what you're going to pick up. That's what you're going to do. And I feel like that's the same way for our kids. We cannot tell them like, hey, we want you to do this and not give them the tools or the example to then do it, right? If you don't put them in that environment, everything else is going to get clouded out and they're never going to go on that course, right? So I love this quote. I say it all the time. We tell our kids they can be whatever they want when they grow up, but do they see us doing just that? And I remember I heard that years ago now on a podcast. And the first time I heard it, it really convicted me. During that period of time, I was in the beginning stages of like building my Young Living business. And like my children were very, very involved into our vision board and what we were going to do. We even made like this whole little song where it was like, when we get to silver, we're going to be that, we're going to go here. And then it was like, when we get to gold, we're going to Disney World. And then when we get there, like we had these whole songs that like, when I taught classes, when I did stuff, they were like all involved. And I remember at some point where I was like, babies, don't you want to sing the song? And they were like, but you're still not gold. So not really. Like, and it's almost because they're like, but you keep saying that we're going to do this, but we're not doing it, right? So they're like, maybe it's just a pipe dream. Maybe it's not really going to happen, right? So it's important that our children see the process. They see what that looks like. For me growing up, again, in the area that I grew up, like I knew that I was going to get an education and then I had to get a job. Like that's just what we did. My father, like, purposely moved us in how he determined where we were going to live was according to the school districts so that I could go to a better school, get a better degree, right? And then get a good job, right? Like that was the system. Because for him, he came out of poverty. He was like for him, the only key was education. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a woman, if you're a mother in business, right? I want you to think about that, because maybe you have boys, maybe you have girls. Either way, it doesn't matter, because they're still going to look at you as to what they're either attracted to or what they want to be, right? And so if we normalize some of these things, then it's going to be easier for them to want and to be able to do these things, right? A lot of times people don't go first, and so they don't know what's possible. And so I think it's important to just start there. Like, we set the example, we set the tone. How are you doing with that? Let me know.
Yeah, I want to know, because I think it's the times, right? We have talked about before, like year after year, decade after decade, like things have changed. Our kids, unfortunately, I love some of the aspects of like my children's childhood and like the things that they're exposed to with school. But one of the things that I really dislike is, as Dayna has said, I mean, we've only been like 11 minutes in, but I don't know if it was this episode or the previous episode, but said we live in a microwave world, right? Our children expect things like right now. They grow up in we take a test on the computer and I know right now whether I'm in the, on grade, above grade, below. Whereas we had to wait for the teacher to bubble out a little thing, call her to her desk, show us her grading book, right? We had to wait in agonizing pain whether we failed or passed this test. They get things so quickly. And for me, deciding to be candid with my children about like some of the things Dayna was talking about, I think it really happened by accident. I know when I first started my Young Living business, one of the things that was taught to me that I, held on to, and I say to those people running businesses alongside with me in my community, is what is your why? I know it sounds like this cliche term, right? When is your why? It's like in every network marketing book. But the truth is, if you change it, we talk about mindset. Andriana brought it up, a few episodes back. But if you flip it to what's your purpose, right? What's your purpose? What's your purpose for your business? Because why may sound like, well, I want to make money. And then you don't go deep enough, right? So what's your purpose? And mine was, when I first started and got very serious and was like late night running and hustling and burning out all the time, was that I wanted my boys, because I have 2 boys, I wanted my boys to see that a woman can do this and still be a mom and still be a wife and still be amazing and not have to shrink herself. That was my purpose. And I remember I said into a group of ladies, I think we were getting ready to do game plan, and we were using Marco Polo, and they asked everybody, and I said it. And for me, it came so natural. And I remember getting a bunch of side messages like, that's really why you're running your business? And I'm like, it's not the only reason, but it is the reason that every morning I get up and I have this consistency, or every morning I'm staying up till 2 a.m. my time to connect with the people stateside, because I wanted my kids to see the things that I felt like as a little girl I didn't see from women. You didn't see them put women running businesses and doing them from home and doing hard things. All we knew were stay-at-home moms. And what that meant was you didn't make money and daddy brought all the money and all the things. And so mine came a lot out of accident. I'm very heavy on self-care because I put myself into what I would call a risky position. I was trying to literally do all the things, and it probably could have ended up being the death of me had I not had the tools that made me realize I was failing physically. So I started saying no. Like, I'm going to tell my kids. I tell my kids, no, bro, you're going to burn out. And then I let them do that. And then I said, but this is what you can do to support yourself. And so those are the things that we talk about, because I don't want, to tell my kids, well, if you work for yourself, because you don't want to have this happen. But here I am hooked up to IVs because I'm not doing the very same thing. Dayna talked about that podcast. And back at the end of 2022, my husband brought it up. I guess it showed up in a reel, because I'm assuming it's the same one because it sounds very identical. There was a story between, a father and their child. And he was saying, go after your dreams, live your dreams, do what makes you happy. And the kid looked at his father and was like, so why aren't you? Like, why aren't you doing exactly what you're telling me? Like, you're unhappy, you're miserable. So why are you doing those things? Right? So we dinner time is a big time for me. Like, I get really aggravated if people don't show up to the table at dinner, because it's one of those times that we have together as a family. And we talk about those things. Like, your knowledge is not free. You can help somebody and you can put a price tag on that, because listen, somebody needs you to help them. Like, we pay for somebody to cook us a hamburger. We pay for somebody to, teach us how to create a lesson plan or whatever the case may be. And if you're great at this, right, you give free information to your friends all the time. And, YouTube's a big thing with our kids. So do your thing. Like, Dayna's kids I love watching the little mompreneurs. Go check them out, y'all. They're the sweetest little things. But having their coloring book, talking about self-care, like, it just doesn't have to be this massive thing, but it can start very small and give them, that platform, because they're being taught it. Like, YouTube is a perfect example of that. I don't know how, hands up, parents, even though I can't see them, how many of your kids have wanted you to create them a YouTube channel because they want to be like Ryan and show off their toys? I have one that wanted to do it. But I mean, this is a great question for Dayna to answer here, because I know there's probably going to be some moms that are like, but I'm afraid. I let him record himself, and then I saved them, but never actually aired them for anybody to see, because I was like, I don't trust YouTube. I don't trust these people out here. So Dayna definitely got to answer that, how you kind of navigate that. But they have such a platform. So if your dream is to run that business or to have them be happy and healthy or whatever, like, are you actually telling them, hey, do that? Because for me, I don't care what my kids do, as long as they keep themselves happy and healthy and internally balanced, because I know what it almost cost me. So I tell my kids all the time, this is what I did. Like, one of the big stories that goes around, my kids don't ask me about math. I've told I failed geometry in high school. Right? It is what it is. Like, I failed geometry. There's a lot of reasons to that, but it's okay. Like, if you're just terrible at this thing, let's get the help. But I tried to be very candid with my kids about all those things. Like, I let my kids come in, and when I mess up or something's not going right with my business, I tell them that. Like, I don't just say, oh, we made $10,000 this month and we're going to go and do this thing and that's it. Instead, I say, look, this month was a terrible month, but a lot of it was because, look at this, like, I'm in disarray, or I chose to go and do those things with you guys instead of doing that one extra thing that could have pushed the needle. I think transparency has become really huge in my life, because I feel like as a world, as a society, we've let like our generations down by not being honest about some of the trappings, and we fall into it, and then we play the silence game around it. And I don't want that for my kids, especially with they have such a huge advantage of being successful and making their own money. But I want them to know, like, the heartbreaks and the trappings we can fall into. So I fell into them by accident, but learn as you go. But Dayna, I want you to answer that, because your kids, like Andriana said, are very, very active. They are very super. You guys have got to go and follow them. Dayna will have to drop in the comments their handle. They are very active within their community, and they go and do their own little vendor events, and it's really, really, really cute. But I know for a lot of moms, YouTube again is a big thing for kids, and they want to get on there and record themselves. But I know I can say you have that issue of like, no, I'm not putting my kids out there. I do put my kids on my social sparingly, and I don't tell their stories. But how do you, as a mom, feel or navigate those safety barriers that some moms may be feeling if they are being transparent and allowing their kids to step out there and kind of live their dreams?
I think that's a great question. So first and foremost, I love starting like that, don't I? So first and foremost, I would say, depending on the platform, depending on where you're going to have your children represented, make sure you're very clear on the guidelines that platform actually outlines, right? So even, with YouTube, for instance, like it's important now, and they specified now this is for kids, this is not for kids, right? There's a kids YouTube versus the regular YouTube now, right? Because there were issues from a parental standpoint and exploitation that was happening that needed to be addressed. And it's still not perfect. I mean, just let's be honest, it's still not perfect, but it does allow you as a parent to better navigate some of those things. Okay. The next thing I want to say is understand what your end goal is for your children, right? So if your end goal at the age of 5 is to have baby millionaires, and you want to put them all over the internet and they have a YouTube channel and this and the other, understand that then you are now opening up a lot of things where their privacy is not as secure. Okay. And so for me, when I navigated this for my children, I want them to still hone in on those skills. So to what even you said, like, let the babies record, let the babies learn editing, let the babies, get on there, just like if their stuff was being posted on YouTube and things like that. Let them have episodes. Let them have some of that content and that information, because understand, especially depending on their age, one, they don't really know if it's like public, even though you published it on YouTube, right? If you want to, or two, they're learning and honing in on those skills. So when they're of age and they actually can put it forth, they already know all that stuff, right? They already know how to edit. They already know how to film. They already understand lighting and the audio and all of that stuff. So it's not a waste, right? Just because your kids in school and they're learning, skills, they're not going to use necessarily those skills right away, but they stay in school for what, 13, is it 13 years? Is it like preschool all the way, like kindergarten, if you 14 basically. So if they're staying in school for that many years before they actually use and utilize those skills, it wasn't a waste, right? So to me, again, allow your kids to still do those, even if you have no intentions of publishing it or putting it out there in the public's eye initially, because it's going to give them those skills. Now, the other thing, because it's funny, I actually, before I even kind of took this launch with my kids, is I talked to a lot of parents that had children kind of, doing their thing on social media or doing their thing on certain platforms. And one of the common things that I would hear is you control and monitor their platforms, right? Especially depending on their age. So Dayton will be 9 this month. My daughter is 13. Okay. They don't have access to communicating with anybody in the world through their social media platforms. They don't have that ability. So even the kids were in a vendor event and they put, their entrepreneur page in a chat. I'm the one speaking in the chat, right? Like, my kids are not going to be interacting with these adults, even though, nothing bad, they're very innocent. I know all of these adults personally, so it wasn't, but there's no reason for my kids to be interacting with these adults, because I'm going to be the one fronting the bill. I'm going to be the one that's bringing them there, right? I'm the one that's doing all the stuff. So I need the information just as much as they do. So you want to be very mindful that you have access to their stuff. So if somebody is fishing for them, or somebody's being inappropriate, because there is a lot of exploitation that can happen. So you want to be careful. So know your things. If you're going to put it out there, if you're going to do certain things. I do also feel like, let's just be real, y'all. Like, I understand a lot of the security measurements and things like that, but if you ever at any point posted your kids, like, they're in the webs, right? Like, they're in the webs now. So that's my biggest tip and advice from that standpoint. Make sure you have control, make sure you know what's going on, because from there you can help to better navigate that. One of the things that I would love to like kind of branch into after this subject is we are living in an age of the artist. So where when I was younger, right? Like again, it was get a degree, get a good job, do your thing, right? But now a YouTuber is making more than a doctor, right? Like now an influencer is making more than, a firefighter or whatever. Like, so we're living in a different age. And so for us to keep our children from honing in on these skills or keep this, and it's not an option for them, we're doing our kids a disservice. To me, it would be similar as when we went from like a manufacturing farming age, right, to more of a technology age. It would be like you telling your kids, well, no internet and no Wi-Fi because like we're gonna stay in the industrial age, and like you can do that, but your kids are gonna be behind, right? Like they're gonna be behind. And so in the same way, if you're not helping them hone in on these skills that they're gonna need when it comes to artistry, when it comes to YouTube, when it comes to some of these other things, you're holding them back.
I love all of that. I see like the inspiration and all that. See for my kids, but let us know in the comments. Have you ever? I don't know. I see kids around here doing their own lemonade stands and all that still old school way. But have you ever just wanted to just push your kids out there to do the things, or just like Dayna and Tameka said, are I mean, be more uh, timid or more aware of what's going on? How often do you allow your kids to work if they are working on their own business? Like, do you have little entrepreneurs at your house? Let us know down there in the comments.
I think so. Are you controlling, Dayna, when you're like kids are wanting to do little things, or do you just kind of let them creatively go on their own and do what they want?
They mainly do their own creative thing, but there's elements that I want them to take serious, just like I would if I was giving them like schoolwork. Okay. Yeah. So for me, there's times when like my husband will joke, he's like, okay, stage mom. Like you're like the stage mom of business. Like, girl, like, but if my daughter's telling me I want to get these shoes, I want to get this necklace, I want to get these things, and I have some money, my first question to you is, well, how much content have you created? Right? Like, because you have something that can yield you income, right? All you have to do is kind of show up, right? And then she thinks, right? And then she's like, oh no, I haven't created anything. No, I haven't given anything for you to schedule so I can post and da 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 da. And I want them to think that way, because if you don't show up and work, you're not going to get paid. You're not going to make no money, and that's real life, right? We all know that is factual, real life things, and so I want them to have a level of that. But now, am I on them and I'm like every single week, did you post? Did you post? Did you post? If you don't post, I have my own business. So,
right.
So you can go to their feeds and you can find, and you'll find that it's blocks where, oh, they haven't posted in a month, or they haven't posted it. And, I might bring it up here and there, but I'm not going to push you to force you to do that, because it is still their own creative flow. It's their own thing. And, they ain't paying my bills with it. So it's like, you need to push it any further than that. But you do have consequences for action and inaction. If you don't, if you want some money, well, you haven't been showing up for 2 months. Well, what'd you expect?
So that was the thing with, so both of mine at some point have been like, oh, we're going to do this YouTube. With my older, it was, oh, well, we watch the guys play games. So me and my two friends, we're just going to hook up, our devices, and we're just going to play video games together. And I'm like, okay, but as much as I agree that all they're doing is playing a video game, there's a lot more context to it, right? There's a whole lot more that's happening behind these guys just playing games. Like, first of all, there's a whole lot of ingenuity happening because these guys are being given deals with these game makers to specifically play maybe a specific part, or somebody reached out to them. Like, there's a whole lot going on. So my thing was always like, I'd be like, no, it's not good. Go back to the drawing table and then we'll talk, right? Because I'm like, we're not just going to be, but I'm like, dang, am I really being controlling? Am I being like one of those mom that's like, nope, it has to be perfect for you, put it out. But mine stem from, because no matter what our boys have always done, we always have preached like loyalty and commitment and honoring those things that you've done. So like when it's come to sports, like you decided to try out for this team. At the time, it was a team you wanted to be a part of. You made the team. You're not going to quit, because if you decide to quit, you're going to that coach and you're explaining it. And then you're going to tell your teammates as well why you've made this choice. We're not just up and moving. Like, you're going to deal with the consequences of the choice that you're going to make. And so we've, as a mom, I'm like both. I want to make sure you get it right, but I'm also like patting your tushy and making sure that you do it. My youngest is very hell-bent on building a game. Like, he constructively watches YouTube videos, although I will say, and I think I've said it before, when I found out how much my child alone was probably making that little boy Ryan, I was like, turn it off, turn it all off. Even though he's learned a lot. He decided he wanted to build a game. So a few years back, we bought them a desktop of their own, and then we downloaded, this program for him to be able to make the game. And then it was like, okay, I don't know how this thing works. Do you know how to work it? No. So then my first thing was to do research. This video popped up, 7-hour long video, y'all, to watch, to how to figure out how to start this base of this game. I was like, if I'm going to watch this to explain it to you, because at the time he was 6 and he will be 9 this summer. So he was 6. And so I was like, I'm going to have to watch this video and then teach you. And I'm like, and this is one of the moments where I hate saying it, I was like, I don't have the time. 7 hours. Like, I'm going to have to break this up into 30-minute increments and then take notes. And I'm like, do I have the bandwidth to do this? And it kind of played out, and he'd forget, but I thought he'd forgotten, and this mug has like stacks of dinosaur folders full of one-page papers of all these designs. And I was like, okay, so now I'm failing. Let me figure this out. But now he's 8. So the end of last year, his dad was like, so you said you wanted to build this game. What have you done? So I'm waiting for him to blame me, because truthfully, it would have been true. I said I was going to, look at it and then help him through it. But he was like, you watch the video and do it. And now he's at that age where, like Dayna said, if you want this thing, you have to take a step towards doing this thing. Like, I'll watch this 7 video because I will honor the commitment that I said I would watch this video. But he now is like nimbly playing with it, and he's putting things together, and it's coming together. And it's just like a perfect example, trial and error, because I've never had kids that wanted to do their own thing like that. Okay, at 6, he couldn't do that because he could barely, put a sentence together for you and type it out. But now it's like, I can watch the YouTube video, I can comprehend the video, and I can also do double screen and put it together. And it's like, now I'm peeking around the corner like, wow, that's like an actual game coming together. Oh, that's an actual game coming together. And it's really cool when you make them responsible. And it's weird because like I said, a concept that we've always had of be responsible, your loyalty, your commitment to what you're doing. But it didn't trigger for me at first when they were like, they want to do this thing. My oldest is not there yet, y'all. He's not there yet. I've even, like Dayna said, your daughter wants to buy these shoes. My son wanted to get a job, but he plays basketball. And I was like, how are you going to maintain your grades? Because you struggle with time management. I love you, son, if you're watching this. But you struggle with time management. Schoolwork has always been something that you're like, this is a means to an end. I have to do this thing. I don't even care. But then basketball and work. When are you going to work? Because like Dayna said, if you go to a job, you've got to put in the work to make the money. You have to show up. So when are you going to do those things? So I was like, you can come work for me, and I will pay you according to the things that you do on this list. right? Can you do these things? And he was like, well, how much would you pay me? And so, I laid this whole thing out and was like, this is what you'd get. This would be like your portion. Eyes get big. Y'all can do that. I ain't seen that child here not one time. Because at the end, it's like, it's the work. And eventually, it will come. But yeah, I thought some of the stuff doesn't click, but I love it. I love that you do push them in like their own creative way. But it's definitely a learned thing. I would love for any mamas out there, daddies out there watching, if you have kids that are running business, because I know there are kids out there doing their thing. How are you handling that? How are you navigating that? Do you create them a plan, or is it like Dayna's saying, what you do is what you're responsible for? I'm not going to make you do it. Because I love that. I do. I love that. Not, supporting them, but not forcing them. And I love that. I see you leaning forward, Andriana. No, nothing. You stuck?
No, I was trying to just minimize my screen. It was going crazy.
Oh.
But I'm agreeing with everything y'all saying.
So I love it.
Yes, I love it, love it, love it. Who are you inspiring? Those little people that's in your house. How much are you inspiring them? Let us know. Just chat it up down there.
Yeah. And are you actually living the life you're telling your kids to live? Can you answer that? Because that's a hard one. And it's an ugly one to face if you tell yourself no. And it's not too late, though. If you're not, it's never too late. I don't care how old you are. It's not too late to turn that around and actually love the life that you're leading and being happy. Because yeah, we see how this world is crumbling. It is not the time to just be like, I'm going to stick it out because it's amazing money. But I'm also not telling you to drop your 6-7 figure job. I will not be responsible for that. But it's just not the time to be living in a place where you're like, ugh, I hate this. Because you'll be like 90 years old, prayfully, and being like, man, I wish. Don't be that person. My husband and I have that conversation. Please do not be the uncle, auntie, grandpa, grandma that is telling the story of, if I'd have known, I wish I wouldn't have, to change the kids. Let the story be, I learned this, did this, now look at me. You can do it too. All right, y'all. We will see you next Wednesday, same place, same time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard, 5 Central. If you have missed any episodes from 2020 or the beginning of this year, the link for the YouTube channel where you can catch every episode from start to finish is there. Go and check them out. Please, please, please share with your friends, your family, and everybody that you know that could benefit from this chat. And if there's anything that you would like to come on and chat with us about, or for us to tackle, drop it in the comments or shoot us a message. We would love to hear from more of you guys. All right, y'all. Till next week. Stay happy and healthy.
Bye, y'all.